iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz.
Oh my gosh, Dwayne, the jazz musician in Boop the Musical. You know, when I first got the script, I sort of identified so much of myself in Dwayne. He's a lover of jazz music. He sort of has this nostalgia and love of, an era before himself, of the 30s, 40s. So I took my love of 30s and 40s musicals and poured it into Dwayne. There have been some big changes to the show since Chicago. We have a handful of new numbers, which I'm really excited to share. There's also some new dance sequences and a lot of new dance for Dwayne, which I'm really excited about. I love dancing. I've been tap dancing since I was like 3 or 4 years old. And so now I get to share some of that in the show. And I can't wait to share it with Broadway. I mean, it's insane to be in a room with David Foster, 16-time Grammy Award winner, David Foster, and he's writing the music for this show, and it sounds so stunning. It sounds like a score, a movie score. And when we were in Chicago, he wrote an extra song for Dwayne. We put it in while we were in Chicago, out of town. Really incredible to have David Foster write a song for you on the spot, knowing your voice and knowing a little bit about you. And then we have Jerry Mitchell, who is a legend on Broadway, and he brings his amazing knowledge. He's such a technician. That man, he knows the musical theater form back to front, and he's really flying high in this show. Yeah, well, as you said, I've only ever recreated a part in Australia. We put together all of these beautiful big Broadway musicals, but they always originate here, and that requires its own set of skills to reimagine a part, but to bring something to life off the page, from scratch is really thrilling and also sort of terrifying, because you have to stand up, you have to have a voice as an actor, you have to advocate for yourself and your character. But it's been a really wonderful process. The team has been so open to collaboration. And as a result, I think you see so much of each of us as actors and people in our characters, which is really, really thrilling. I mean, Jasmine and I get on so well off stage, and that translates on stage. She's like my sister, and that's probably odd to say because we play lovers in the show. But the chemistry that we have, and the love that we have for each other off stage, translates on stage. And I wouldn't have anybody else by my side in this show. The music in this show is so singable. Nearly every song you can walk out humming, which I think is so important when you come to see a Broadway show. You want to be infected by the music. And I think Boop really does that, and that's thanks to David. My favorite musical moment in the show, there's this beautiful duet between Betty and my little sister Trisha in the show. It's a moment where they sort of finally connect, and Trisha really steps into her own. It's so beautiful. I'm sure people are going to be pulling out tissues in the theatre, yeah. I mean, we know who Betty Boop is in Australia, and she's certainly a pop culture icon, but I think she's so much more a fabric of your popular culture here in America. And when I got the notice for the audition for this show, I sort of started to notice all around me Betty Boop T-shirts, bags. On Instagram things were popping up. So it's really cool to mount this show in a country where she's still so much a part of your pop culture. I did see Maybe Happy Ending, and I really loved it so very much. But if there's a show that I haven't seen yet and I do want to see, I'd love to go and see Smash. I feel like Smash and Betty Boop, Boop the Musical are previewing at the same time, and we're sort of coming up to opening at the same time, where we're hitting these milestones together. So I'd love to run across and see that. And Bob Martin, our book writer, is also working on Smash. Yeah. My first Broadway show, which was in 2019, was the first time I'd been to New York when I did Aladdin. And I went to see Pretty Woman, the musical. Ironically, Jerry Mitchell's show, and now here we are creating Boop together. So that sort of feels like a full circle moment. I think when we were working on Dwayne, I was interested to find a leading man that was maybe not so sure of himself, was a little more insecure, and had to step into himself through the arc of the show. And Betty helps him do that. And I guess I'm putting that in contrast to something like Fierro, which I just came off the back of in Australia, who is very self-assured and very cocky, and so in Dwayne I was sort of looking to find something a little different. Yeah, our show is about love. It's a joyous, camp, funny, ritzy musical, and I think maybe we say this a lot, but this is a pretty tricky time in the world, and it has been for a number of years. And I think this is a show that you can bring the whole family to. You can laugh and have a beautiful time and walk out singing the songs. And I think if we do that, then that's all I want.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz.